My parents watched that film together, laughed uncontrollably when seeing Robin Williams transform into the clumsy Mrs Doubtfire, then fell silent when Daniel talked about the pain of divorce and the effort to preserve love for his children. They told me that the film was the best thing they had ever watched. At that time, I did not understand. I only knew to laugh along with the humorous scenes, seeing the Scottish nanny truly funny with a grumbling voice and grey hair. Later, when watching again on DVD, then streaming, I realised it was strangely good. Did you know that Robin Williams almost suffered severe burns in the kitchen fire scene? Or that Lisa Jakub was expelled from school just because of participating in Mrs Doubtfire? And also the casting choices that almost changed everything, from Warren Beatty to Little Blake Lively. Let's find the answers in today's video. 20. The fire scene almost killed the actor. Do you still remember the scene where Mrs Doubtfire stands by the gas stove? The fire suddenly flares up from the costume, making the audience laugh uncontrollably. Few people know that it was not only acting. The fire truly licked into the thick foam latex layer on Robin Williams's chest and face. The burning heat spread, the skin turned red, the burnt smell rose suffocatingly in the cramped studio space. Robin clearly felt each wave of burns, but he did not stop, did not scream in pain. He only managed to improvise perfectly, turning the accident into a humorous moment like an old woman going through a hot flash. The entire film crew stood frozen, hearts pounding, the camera still running because they were afraid to cut the scene midway. Fortunately, the fire went out quickly. Robin was only slightly red on the skin, did not need hospitalization. That scene was kept intact in the theatrical version, becoming one of the classic moments that millions of viewers laughed uncontrollably at. Robin later recalled with a half smile, that was the day he truly lived in the role, even though he was only a hand's breadth away from death. The people in the crew still remember that suffocating heat, the burnt smell mixed with awkward laughter, as proof of the silent dedication of a time of filmmaking that did not yet have too much safety. 19. Robin tested Mrs Doubtfire in real life. Few people know that there was once a day when Robin Williams quietly stepped out onto the street in the complete appearance of Mrs Doubtfire to check whether the makeup truly fooled people's eyes. He wore a grey wig, put on a long dress, wore glasses, applied careful makeup, then calmly walked around the familiar streets of San Francisco. No one recognized him. Passers-by smiled politely at the strange Scottish old lady. Even Robin's own son, when accidentally meeting his father on the street, only thought it was some old woman. The peak of the experiment was when Robin pushed the door and stepped into an adult store, a store selling adult items. With a sweet Scottish voice, he calmly asked to buy several sensitive items, making the employee behind the counter surprised but still serving him. When Robin removed the mask, revealing his identity, that employee stood frozen, face pale, unable to speak. Robin laughed loudly, patted his shoulder to comfort. "Don't worry, I just wanted to see if anyone would recognize me." Those moments show that Robin did not only act on the film set, he lived fully with the character, even in real life. 18. Lisa Jakub was expelled from school for acting in the film. I still remember the character Lydia, the eldest daughter of the Hillard family played by Lisa Jakub, with eyes both strong and fragile whenever looking at her parents arguing. Few people know that to have those scenes, Lisa had to pay with her own schooling. When the film crew moved to the United States to film, Lisa, at that time studying in Canada, had to take a long leave from school. The school sent an official letter, no need to return anymore. That letter was like a punch to the tender teenage years of the girl. Lisa was so sad that she did not know what to do, feeling as if the whole world turned its back on the acting dream that had just begun. Robin Williams knew the story, he immediately wrote a long letter to the principal, explaining that real experience on the film set was also a valuable part of education. He asked the school to reconsider, even emphasised the human value that the role brought. The principal refused, but he framed Robin's letter, hanging it right in the office like a treasure. Lisa later recalled that was the biggest shock of her youth, but also the first lesson about kindness from a stranger. Robin, the person who always silently protected young colleagues. 17. The melting cream mask scene. An accident became a classic. Until now, the scene where Daniel presses his face into the cake to cover the prosthetic layer is still a classic of family comedy films. Few people know that moment was born from a real accident on the film set. The original script only required Robin to press his face into the cake to hide the mask, but the hot studio lights made the cream begin to melt immediately. The opaque white cream dripped from the chin, falling into the teacup of the social worker sitting opposite. Robin did not stop the camera, did not panic. He continued acting, letting the cream fall naturally, then improvising smoothly as if it was part of the script. An unexpected line sounded, gentle and witty, making the whole crew burst into laughter in the suffocating heat. The camera kept rolling from beginning to end, not cutting any part. That scene became one of the funniest moments of the film, thanks to Robin's lightning-fast improvisation in an unexpected situation. That small accident turned out to be an invaluable gift, reminding that sometimes perfection comes from things that do not follow the plan in the long filming days of the 90s. 16. Based on a British novel. We only know Mrs Doubtfire as a classic Hollywood comedy film, but in fact, it was adapted from a British novel titled Alias Madame Doubtfire by writer Anne Fine, published in 1987. In the original book, Daniel Hillard's disguise was quite bad and clumsy. He only used glasses, a simple wig, simple makeup. The voice also did not change much. The two older children, Lydia and Christopher, recognised from the first minutes that their father disguised as the nanny. They kept the secret because they loved their father, not because they were deceived. The story in the book has a light, tragic comic tone, focusing on the pain of divorce and family connection more than big humorous scenes. When adapted to film, the filmmakers changed completely. Robin Williams' makeup became perfect, with sophisticated prosthetic layers, a characteristic Scottish voice, and the secret was kept until 3/4 of the film. The children did not recognise, creating continuous situations, laughing with tears. That difference made the film more cheerful, easier to approach the mass audience, but still kept the human spirit from the original work. 15. 4 hours of makeup every day. Have you ever wondered, how did the film crew transform Robin Williams into Mrs Doubtfire so convincingly? Every morning, Robin had to sit still in the makeup room for 4 hours. The makeup team glued each foam latex layer, a total of 8 thin layers, onto the face, neck and hands to create wrinkles, naturally sagging skin. After that was a thick bodysuit hugging the body, the grey wig firmly attached, then a layer of old skin texture paint carefully applied. Robin had to tilt his head back for hours, neck aching, eyes tightly closed to avoid glue sticking to the eyelashes. To keep him from boredom while waiting, the crew even installed a small TV hanging on the ceiling. Robin lay on his back watching old films or favourite programmes. He joked calling that prosthetic outfit the world's largest condom because of the tight and suffocating feeling. That effort was not wasted. Greg Canham's makeup team won the 1994 Oscar for Best Makeup. Robin later said, "Those silent sitting hours helped him gradually enter the role, thinking and gesturing like a real Scottish old woman." In the heat of the studio lights and the strong smell of glue, makeup did not only change appearance, it changed the soul of the character, bringing a Mrs Doubtfire that made the audience believe that she existed in real life. 14. The film opening directed by a Looney Tunes legend. If you pay attention, you will realise, right from the first seconds of Mrs Doubtfire, the opening animation carries a familiar classic style. That was the work of Chuck Jones, the Looney Tunes legend, who once drew Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner. The film crew invited him to direct 5 minutes of animation, but in the end, only used about 1 minute to introduce the story. In the draft version, there was a scene of a parrot smoking a cigarette, and Daniel lost his job for opposing immoral content. Robin Williams firmly refused to voice that parrot because he felt it was not suitable with the family message. This small detail was kept, immediately establishing the character's personality. A father with high principles but often making foolish decisions. Chuck Jones's animation style, free lines, bright colours, reminds of afternoons we sat watching old TV, waiting for the commercial segment to come on. In the modern Hollywood production cycle, inviting such a classic animation master was a gesture of respect for the past, making the opening not only an introduction, but also a warm greeting to the audience who grew up with those animated characters. 13. The makeover scene. Dude looks like a lady. Who can forget the scene of Robin Williams transforming from Daniel into Mrs Doubtfire in the dressing room, with the hit Dude Looks Like a Lady by Aerosmith playing? That scene took more than a week to film, chaotic to the point that the whole crew had to run to keep up with Robin's energy. He constantly improvised, changed characters, tried all kinds of gestures, tones, even added lines not in the script. The studio lights were hot, sweat-soaked, but Robin still laughed loudly, turning the cramped space into his own stage. Director Chris Columbus let him be free, only requiring to keep the rapid pace. The result was a legendary scene. From a clumsy father to a confident Scottish nanny, everything happened smoothly, humorous yet full of emotion. Robin later said, that was when he truly lived in the role, when the makeup layers gradually completed and the character began to have a soul. Those long filming days, among rock music and echoing laughter, created one of the most memorable sequences of the 90s, where music, acting and creativity blended, making the audience watching again still feel nervous like the first time. 12. Blake Lively almost was Natalie Imagine. If the role of Natalie, the youngest daughter of the Hillard family, belonged to Blake Lively, how Mrs Doubtfire would have been different. That year, Blake was only 5 years old. She came to audition with Robin Williams. The girl read the lines, but was so nervous that she was not comfortable standing in front of a strange uncle full of energy like Robin. Blake trembled, her voice very small, not showing the necessary naturalness. The role finally belonged to Mara Wilson, the girl with clear eyes and more natural innocence. Blake later grew up to become a big star, but that audition moment is still an interesting small behind-the-scenes story. Casting for children is always a matter of luck. Just one short audition can change the entire film. Robin, with acting experience, immediately recognised the difference between tension and natural comfort. That decision, although small, contributed to creating the perfect balance for the children cast in the film. Now thinking back, Blake Lively could have been a part of our childhood memory. But Mara Wilson brought to Natalie an unforgettable cuteness, true to the warm spirit of the film. 11. The ending Hollywood did not want. At first, the studio insisted on a fairy tale ending. Daniel and Miranda reunited, the family reunited like in a Disney film. They hired another screenwriter to rewrite, turning the divorce story into a simple happy ending. But Robin Williams, Sally Field, and director Chris Columbus strongly opposed. They defended Randy Singer's script, where Daniel and Miranda still divorced, but learned to co-parent their children in peace. Robin emphasized that children need to see the truth. Divorce does not always have a beautiful ending, but the love parents have for their children remains intact. After many tense arguments, the studio conceded. The scene of Mrs Doubtfire talking directly to the children about divorce through the TV screen still was kept, becoming the most truthful and emotional moment of the film. Robin sat in makeup, warm voice, speaking frankly about pain and hope. That ending was not perfect in the Hollywood way, but precisely because of that, it touched the audience's heart. 10. Pierce Brosnan almost was a real villain. Try to imagine if Stu, Miranda's new man, was truly a bad person in Mrs Doubtfire. The first script once wrote like that. Stu wanted to send the 3 children to boarding school, turning him into a typical villain character, directly opposite to Daniel. Director Chris Columbus read it and shook his head. Too one-sided, too simple black and white. He decided to rewrite, turning Stu into a decent, stable man with a good job, sincerely loving Miranda. Pierce Brosnan, with elegant appearance and warm smile, became the perfect choice for that role. This change made the conflict no longer evil versus good, but shifted to internal. Daniel had to face himself with instability, with mistakes in the old marriage. Thanks to that, the film became much deeper. The audience could not easily choose sides, but had to reflect on the responsibility of both sides. Pierce Brosnan later said, he liked this role because it was not the usual bad guy, but a normal man who made Daniel jealous. 9. When real life collided with the film set in the middle of filming the court scenes, where Daniel and Miranda disputed child custody, a real tragedy happened. Sally Field received news that her father passed away suddenly. She tried to hold back, stepped onto the set with red eyes, still wanting to continue because of the tight schedule. Robin Williams immediately recognized something unusual through her eyes and gestures. Without saying much, he used his producer authority to order production to stop immediately. The whole crew fell silent. Robin gently took Sally outside, letting her go home to be with family. Sally later recalled in an interview, her voice still emotional. Robin was extremely delicate, always observing and caring for others in the chaotic film set cycle. That moment was not recorded on screen, but it was engraved deeply in everyone's memory. Among laughter and studio lights, real life sometimes entered, reminding that actors are also humans with their own pain. Robin, although famous for endless energy, was the one who knew to stop at the right time to protect colleagues. 8. Mrs Doubtfire said, "Dear," 101 times. If you ever noticed, the word "dear," the characteristic way of address of Mrs Doubtfire, sounded continuously in the film. According to official statistics from the film crew, Robin Williams said this word exactly 101 times, from gentle sentences comforting the children to strict but warm reminders. Dear became the character's signature, sounding sweet, close, strongly carrying the image of an old Scottish grandmother full of love. Robin intentionally repeated that word to create a familiar feeling, like the way a real grandmother talks to her grandchildren every day. Each time "dear" sounded, his voice changed slightly, sometimes gentle, sometimes serious, but always expressing sincere care. The audience watching the film did not count, but unconsciously felt that warmth spreading through each line. Robin later laughed, saying, he learned to use "dear" from real Scottish grandmothers he once met. That simple word, repeated 101 times, turned Mrs Doubtfire into a symbol, not only a fake nanny, but the image of an adult always beside children, even in the most difficult circumstances. 7. A neighbour revenge scene cut from the film originally. The script had an interesting subplot between Daniel and neighbour Gloria, the person who often watched closely and caused trouble. Daniel, in the role of Mrs Doubtfire, took revenge by advising Gloria that dog urine would help the flowers in the garden become stronger. She completely believed it, poured urine everywhere. The result was killing her beautiful garden. That scene was fully filmed. The The crew laughed uncontrollably when watching the rushes because of the humorous innocence of the supporting character. But during editing, Chris Columbus decided to cut the entire part. The reason? That subplot disrupted the film rhythm, lengthened the duration, and reduced focus on the main family story. Although regretful, both Robin and Sally Field agreed that cutting was correct. That cut part now only remains in the crew's memory, like a cheerful behind-the-scenes story. It reminds that not every good idea fits the whole. Among many humorous scenes kept, that dog urine revenge was one of the things sacrificed to make the film smoother, focusing on the warm message about father and children, love and forgiveness. 6. Mrs Doubtfire in real life. Who would have thought that the name Mrs Doubtfire was not completely created from the film script, but inspired by a real Scottish woman? Writer Anne Fine, author of the original novel alias Madame Doubtfire, once visited a second-hand shop in Scotland. The shop owner was Annabella Coates, a typical Scottish old woman with a warm voice, the shop chaotic, filled with old items and dozens of cats wandering everywhere. Anne Fine was impressed by that cosy disorder, and she took the name Doubtfire from that old woman's name to name the nanny character. In the book, the character has a close personality, clumsy but full of love. When adapted to film, Robin Williams and the film crew kept that name as a silent tribute. Sadly, Annabella Coates passed away before the film was released in 1993, so she never knew her name became a global cinema symbol. This small story reminds that behind fictional characters there is often a real life, a real person who unintentionally inspired. Now, each time watching Mrs Doubtfire again, we seem to see the image of that Scottish old woman appearing through Robin's smile, bringing a little warmth from a distant old shop. 5. The house at 2640 Steiner Street. After Robin Williams passed away in 2014, the house at 2640 Steiner Street in San Francisco, the place that played the Hillard family home in Mrs Doubtfire, became a special location. At first, it was only a normal Victorian house chosen as a filming setting, with a wide staircase, a cosy living room and a small garden behind. But after Robin's death, it gradually turned into a silent memorial place. Fans from everywhere came, placed flowers, left handwritten letters, photos, even small drawings of Mrs Doubtfire attached to the fence. They stood silently in front of the door, took photos with the famous house number, whispered favourite lines. Local residents began to call it Doubtfire House, the Doubtfire House, as a way to preserve the memory of Robin and the film that was connected with so many families. The current owner, although already used to the flow of visitors, still keeps the house intact, not repainting much, as if to respect that memory value. There is no official sign, no tour, but it is still a natural stopping place for those who want to recall the laughter and sadness from 1993. Now, each time passing Steiner Street, people still see the image of Mrs Doubtfire appearing in the wind, as if Robin was still there, laughing loudly and hugging the children tightly. 4. Casting choices that almost changed everything. Casting for Mrs Doubtfire was once a series of decisions that could completely change the film. Author Anne Fine initially wanted Warren Beatty for the role of Daniel, a romantic star, suitable with the image of a charming but unstable father. The studio leaned towards Tim Allen, at that time famous with Home Improvement because he brought a close family humour. In addition, they also considered Mel Gibson, with strong masculine attraction, Tom Hanks, lovable warmth, Bill Murray, eccentric humour, and even Chevy Chase, clumsy comedy style. The role of Miranda was also competitive. They once thought about Catherine O'Hara or Kirstie Alley. Even Blake Lively, at 5 years old, auditioned for the role of Natalie, but was not chosen because too tense. In the end, Robin Williams and Sally Field were chosen, a perfect combination between Robin's chaotic energy and Sally's calm, truthful presence. Robin brought unlimited laughter. Sally brought emotional depth. Those almost choices now become interesting behind-the-scenes stories. If only one person was replaced, the film would probably have been completely different. Fortunately, that combination created a family comedy masterpiece, making us still watch again after many years, like meeting our own childhood memory again. 3. Why Mrs Doubtfire? 2 never became reality. Despite huge revenue and audience love, the sequel of Mrs Doubtfire forever remained an unfinished dream. In 2001, Bonnie Hunt was assigned to write the sequel script, but the project was quickly cancelled because Robin Williams was not satisfied with the new direction. In 2014, Chris Columbus returned with a script that made Robin excited again. He even joked in a meeting, "Do I have to wear the thick suit as much as before?" referring to 4 hours of makeup each day. Robin laughed loudly, ready to recreate the character, but only a few months later, Robin passed away suddenly in August 2014. All Hollywood sank into sadness. Chris Columbus, the friend and original director, declared clearly he would not make the sequel anymore. He said that no one could replace Robin, and the idea of disguise when the secret had been revealed would lose the original attraction. The project officially stopped completely, no more hope of restarting. Now, Mrs Doubtfire 2 only exists in behind-the-scenes stories, like a reminder of the fragility of cinema and humans. 2. The film became a symbol in child custody debate. Few people expected a family comedy film to become a reference in child custody disputes. Although no one truly disguised as a nanny in real life, Mrs Doubtfire was mentioned frequently in courtrooms. Daniel's line, "Proceedings have always tended to favour the mother, although incorrect legally at that time," reflected the real desperation of many fathers. The film did not support the act of disguise, but it portrayed the pain of divorce truthfully. Parents both love their children, but the legal system sometimes makes one side feel unfair. Many lawyers and judges used the film to illustrate arguments about shared parenting, joint custody, instead of prioritising the mother. Robin Williams, through the character Daniel, unintentionally raised a larger discussion about gender equality in raising children. The audience watched the film and laughed at the humour scenes, but many adults later reflected on real life. The film did not intend to become a social symbol, but that sincerity made it go beyond the cinema, entering serious debates about modern family. 1. Age classification controversy in the UK. One of the things few people expected was that Mrs Doubtfire once caused major controversy about age classification in the United Kingdom. Initially, the British Board of Film Classification, BBFC, rated the film at 12 certificate, meaning children under 12 were not allowed to watch, even with parents accompanying. The main reason was, in some lines, considered mild sexual references, especially in the makeover scene when Robin Williams tried clothes and had a few jokes with suggestive nature. Those details, although humorous and not too explicit, still made the classification board concerned about influence on children. Many cinemas strongly opposed because families were refused to buy tickets. The film clearly aimed at family audience, with warm message about parents and children, not adult content. Pressure from audience and distributors made the BBFC reconsider. After the film crew agreed to cut exactly 3 lines considered sensitive, the film was lowered to PG, parental guidance, allowing children to watch if guided by parents. The theatrical version in the UK, thanks to that, reached more families. However, when the Blu-ray was re-released later, the uncut version was released, and the BBFC returned to rating 12 once again. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe so you won't miss our next videos. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next video.